Welcome to Storytime with HDThul. I am HDThul, and together we will be reading Chapter 6 from Henderson's Meat Wagon, called Fresh Meat. As always, if you like what I'm reading to you, like, subscribe, share, comment, the routine. And also, I have 3 other books on Amazon under HDThul. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get started, shall we? So, Chapter 6, Fresh Meat, page 73. Okay. He had won the election just 2 months ago. The people of Humboldt seemed to respect Daniel as their new mayor. Now that he is mayor, getting rid of criminal evidence is even easier for him. Now, because he is a man of importance, people seem to just jump when he says jump, and they don't even ask why. They ask how high. He has become a man of power and influence. His church is even growing bigger now, and he seems to have everyone in the palms of his hands. Unfortunately, though, now that he is mayor, he has to leave all of his meat business to his son, Leonard. He may be only 16, but he is responsible for his age, and he knows every single job in the plant, both in the plant and in the grocery store. Now that Leonard is responsible for the well-being of the family business, and Daniel is responsible for the well-being of the town of Humboldt, things are going to change. Change is good for the most part, but this kind of change could be catastrophic if the conditions are just right. Just like the perfect storm. Of course, Daniel doesn't leave everything in Leonard's hands. He still has to answer to his dad, of course, and Daniel is still the pastor of his church. Every day, Daniel checks the work of his 2 sons and checks the condition of his store and plant, both financially and otherwise. Although Daniel trusts his sons with his business, it is still his business, and his business is his baby, and Leonard is merely the babysitter. Daniel had suggested to his sons that they should either run Tony Grisham's truck off a cliff or run it in a lake somewhere. He basically didn't care what they did with it, as long as the truck was off the property and disposed of. The keys of the truck were in Tony's clothes. So Leonard and Chris started up the truck as Daniel was training new workers for the plant. As Daniel was showing his new workers around, Leonard and Chris were in Tony's truck, getting it started. The new workers could see them take off as they were touring the place. As they were casually strolling behind Daniel outside the plant, they drove the truck over 100 miles away to a river, put the truck in neutral, and got out of the truck before it rolled into a river and floated it downstream, with all of the 4 victims' property, except for their money, which they obviously kept for themselves. Then, after they got rid of the truck, they walked home, sticking their thumb out as they were walking, hoping for a ride. After walking for about 2 hours, an old farmer driving a combine picked up the boys and said, "Hey, you fellas, you need a ride?" He had a straw hat and a flannel shirt. He was in his 70s, and he had coveralls on over his flannel shirt and his brand new Levi's blue jean pants. He reached over to help them up in the giant John Deere combine as they stood up next to him. He drove down the country road until he got into Humboldt, where he left them off. Then they walked about half a block to get back home. Now, Boris Vanderbilt had been working for Daniel ever since he built the place back in '51. which is what he wants others to believe, which is a lie, because he actually stole it from his own father and built on it later. He had always been Daniel's right-hand man. He had seen things that would make your skin crawl, yet he maintained a calm and yet humorous attitude. Today he is helping Daniel with the newbies, or as the veterans of the place would call, fresh meat. Boris had not joined Daniel's church, though he dared not respect it in any way, as the result of such an action could be life-threatening. Boris was in his early 50s and was very crude in the way he would approach people in any situation, but especially with the fresh meat. Daniel had finished the tour and had to report to City Hall. So Boris was to finish the orientation for the fresh meat today. Boris walked briskly to the new hires and counted them as he walked up to them. There was about 8 in the group. Boris had a clipboard in his arms, and he walked up to the group, front and center, and started off with, "Fresh meat! Ha ha! So hard to find good help these days." He paused for a second or two, then he started in again. "My name is Boris Vanderbilt. I have been with Daniel Henderson from the very beginning, when he built this place from scratch. So a few things to remember here. Number 1, if you are hired as a meat cutter or a butcher, you need to keep your knife sharp. A sharp knife can make the difference for you here. The last thing you want to do is to try to bone out a ham or shoulder with a doggone butter knife. The other thing to remember is not to piss off the boss. Your life may depend on it. Your livelihood may depend on it here." "What do you mean, our livelihood may depend on it?" asked someone from the group of new hires. "I simply mean that Daniel can make your life very hard here if you choose to piss him off." He stopped and looked around and then continued with, "Daniel is the nicest person you'll ever meet, but do not, and I repeat, do not piss the guy off. So how do you not piss off the boss? Good question. I'm glad you asked. Anyway, not to piss off the boss. It is as simple as do what he asks of you. And he don't like to repeat himself too often. Don't cuss. Yeah, let him do all the cussing. He likes to say the cuss words, but don't like to hear it. Can you imagine? He was talking with his hands. What I am basically saying is if you are if you do what you are told and don't give the boss any shit, you'll be fine." "Is there anything else to remember?" asked another person from the group. "Huh? Oh yeah, yes. Yes, there is. The most important thing to remember is whatever goes on in the plant stays in the plant. Got it?" "What do you mean? What goes on in the plant stays in the plant?" "I mean, mind your own damn business, and you'll be just fine. If it is not your business, leave it alone. If it is something that what? Never mind. Just mind your own business and let the rest be somebody else's." "What did you mean when you said that certain things could get you killed?" "Well, just that. There are certain things in this plant that has the potential to kill you. If you are not paying attention or not following the rules. Remember, a meat cutter is a dangerous job. And especially if you are an idiot." He pulled out a manila folder from the clipboard that he was holding, and he pulled out a few sheets of paper that he got from the offices down the long, narrow hallway with the weird fluorescent lighting. On the sheets of paper was the information about health benefits and everything that the job has to offer. Like if you become a member of the Henderson church, you get bumped up 15 cents an hour on their pay. Just beside that, by the bundle of papers in Boris's clipboard was a stack of 8 small 20-page books of the company's policies and procedures. In the book, it is explained in detail. all of Daniel's rules, in which Daniel explains in a closure towards the end, stating that violating any of these rules are punishable and Mr. Henderson's disposable, up to and including termination. Boris had then taken his group of new hires to an empty room and proceeded to give a class on keeping a sharp knife, which is the most important thing to a meat cutter, because keeping a sharp knife could be the difference between carpal tunnel or trigger finger or tennis elbow, or even just working with a dull knife can hurt like hell. He had a three-way stone sitting on a table. Next to that was a ceramic steel and a regular metal steel. Next to that was 2 or 3 boning knives. Next to the steels was a couple of strips of emery cloth. He picked up a steel and a strip of 80 grit emery cloth. Then he said, "Working your steel is the key to keeping a sharp knife. The better your steel is worked up, the sharper you can keep your knife." He took the 80 grit emery cloth and pinched the steel between his fingers firmly, and then slid the emery cloth down the steel, sending sparks off the tip of the steel, as he said, "Go in one direction, all the way around your steel, and count about 100 strokes." They picked up a steel that was next to them, and the emery cloth that was close by, and copied what Boris was doing. Next thing he did was to show the class how to steel their knives. So he laid his boning knife flat on the steel and turned up the back end of it about 18 to 25 degrees, as he was telling the class, "Lay your knife flat against your steel and turn up the back end about 18 to 25 degrees. Now barely put any pressure on your knife and just glide it along the shaft of your steel." They copied exactly what Boris was doing and saying, make sure you keep the same exact pressure and angle on both sides of your steel. Then he explained how there is a small microscopic bevel on the edge of your knife, and the purpose for steeling your knife is to keep that bevel straight. Then he demonstrated how sharp the knife is now by cutting a straight cut through a piece of paper, and had everyone else do the same thing. The class lasted for about a couple of hours, and then he sent them home for the day and to come back tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, that's it for fresh meat. Next we'll be doing chapter 7, which is the election. That's when Daniel becomes mayor. So, anyways, I had stated before that that I had made a mistake, right? So what I did is I had went and I had gone through my book, my manuscript, and I had corrected as many mistakes as I could. And I haven't exactly put it on Amazon yet, the way it is corrected, but I have corrected my mistakes. So just to let you know, the mistakes that I have made have been corrected, and when I publish them in Amazon again, you'll see the new corrections. So, anyways, like I said, if you like what I'm reading to you, click like, subscribe, especially subscribe, because if you subscribe, you can get new videos that I put out, and then you can keep up better that way. And also remember, I have 3 other books on Amazon under HDThul as well. So with that being said, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a very good day.